Welcome to the Gray State Revolution. The Forbidden Ones are waking up. Now it's time to invoke a new revolution to the socialist scam to take over America and discover what it will take and what we can actually do about it to conquer the left. Direct from Ridge Runner Studios, here is your host, David Big Dave Ezel.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Gray State. The Gray State has been real busy this past week. They're now trying to force everybody to get the shot at their 6-month level of their immunization rotation, just so they can go to school and have to have it prior to school. It's BS. They think they're not even elected officials that made this decision. They're 15 of the stupidest physicians and nurses in the country thinking it was going to go over. I see homeschooling taking off after this. I see people fighting the system. I see these governors saying they won't comply to it, but until they put a rule in front of their state legislature, and that even means if they call a special session to do it before the 8th of November, that they should do that. There shouldn't be any wasting time. They need to make laws to protect the children of their state if that's what they intend to do. I don't know what the left-leaning Democratic states are going to do. They're probably still living on a wing and a prayer, thinking that this is going to turn out their way and it's going to be what they want. I don't foresee that at all. I think that it's coming down to choice. It's coming down to rights, and it's coming down to actually just the freedom guaranteed by the Constitution. At this point, we can all just agree at this juncture of life that this government is socialist. They're not left. They're stupid socialists. They are the epitome of a 3-year-old toddler's actions. I'm going to do this whether it makes sense or not. I'm going to do it whether it hurts anybody or not. It's all about me. It's all about what I want. And that's just not right. That's where the bullshit comes in. That's what we'll be talking about tonight. First, we're going to get a ad from my sponsor. Been a sponsor since the beginning.
Do you have a friend or family member you're having trouble buying a gift for? You just can't find the right gift for the person who has everything? Then go to Rockin' Magnolia Customs, a place where you can pick out and design the perfect gift for that special someone. That's RockinMagnoliaCustoms.com, or find them on Facebook at Rockin' Magnolia Customs.
And that's Rocking Magnolia Customs. There's no G in rocking, and the customs is always spelled with a K. RockingMagnoliaCustoms.com. The backlash from the CDC's decision this week absolutely has blown my mind. I didn't think that many people was going to pay attention, and when I say that, I'm talking about universally. I've seen more about it. I've seen the news media covering it, which means they were not expecting to. It's almost unplanned at this point. But that's what happens when you're living in a gray state. That's what happens when the government uses a police state to enforce rules on you that you don't like, and they think they're going to make you abide by them. They're learning the hard way. We have learned, when I say we, I'm talking about the public, that we have learned how to set aside our differences, and especially in the past, I would say week, but I have seen so much of the drama disappear from certain parts of social media that was going on before, but they're not stopping, but it sure has slowed down. It sure has let people see that, oh, well, it's about time to implement let's get to one objective, then we can fight again. People realizing that I think it might be a little too late. I think that it's now down to the first step in fixing everything and reclaiming our government is, first we have to take back our government. And if we have to elect a Republican, which to me they're the same as the Democrats. They hadn't done anything since they've been elected in office. They didn't do anything when they had a majority. They did a lot of talking, but they didn't do that much. They have let the Democrat Party run amok. When the Republicans were in charge, the Democrats let the Republicans run amok. They let each other run amok because it fits and determines their back pocket amount. I think it's time that we reevaluate our system. I'm not hollering about a third party. If you want the two-party system, fine. I think that I'm loving the fact that the independent section of this country is growing by leaps and bounds, and everybody's realizing that the political parties are the gray state. They have their own focus. They have their own lobby. They have their own to-dos. They have their own honey-do list. They just bend and fold and do whatever. They don't care about the public. And you say, oh, well, David, the Republicans are the ones that's more effective to my leadership. Yeah, well, okay, if that's what you want to claim, that they're more effective to your leadership, the Patriot Act was passed by Republicans. And that was the biggest fraud. That was the biggest giveaway of our rights. And that was Republicans testing to see what the public would take. And it worked. So they carried it a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. Both sides, not just the right, not just the left. Both sides have taken your rights away a little at the time. They have chiseled away at the Constitution and the first 10 articles of the first 10 amendments, Bill of Rights. They've chipped away at the Bill of Rights so much that we don't even have anything like a Bill of Rights anymore. Everybody got so tore up over the abortion being sent back to the states. That's constitutional. That's not a right guaranteed in the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. The Bill of Rights or the Bill of Rights or the Bill of Rights. The law of the land, the supreme law of the land, is the Constitution. Now, when a state law interferes with it, that's how it happens. That's when it becomes and it gets sent back. Well, the federal law interfered with states' rights this time, so they sent it back to where it belongs, back to the states. Now, that is constitutional. That's how it's supposed to work. People saying, well, they're going to determine, well, it goes back to this. If you want it in your state, then you're going to have to change the leadership in your state. That means you're going to have to become involved. And you're probably going to have to elect an independent to do it. Because as long as that's an issue, even if let's say the governorships are Democrats, and that's what they run on, is they're going to get it passed, but the legislatures in the states are Republican, and they can fight back and forth. They're going to fight back and forth on one issue in front. They're never going to do anything behind the scenes for anything else. But if you're going to do it and you want it in your state, then put it on the ballot. Get enough people to sign signatures. Get a majority of the people to show up at the polls. Get a ballot initiative put on your ballots. You've got that right. It's not about whether I like it or not. It's not about what you want me to say. I know I've got my listeners that are extreme right, and they are so happy about it. But you're carrying it too far. these right-leaning states, quote unquote, biblical states, quote unquote, religious factions, quote unquote, that think they have control of the government. Your will and your thoughts and your belief system shouldn't be pushed on the rest of the state that doesn't think or feel or act like you. We're made up of all different people. We're made up of all different people with different ideas. I'm not for it and I'm not against it. It doesn't affect me. I'm not dumb enough to think that it's going to affect me. Now, when I say that, I mean personally. If one of my kids was telling me that they're going to do this and they got to go somewhere else to get it done, sorry, I'm not paying no gas money. But you've got that right to do what you want to do. You've got to make that decision, and that decision's one you've got to live with. And now, if they can, do that and live with it, then maybe I didn't do as good a job as I thought. I have to live with that. I taught my kids to be free thinkers, and I mean for them to stick by that. I think that they have the innate right to be adults and make their own decisions and live with it. If they can't, then that's the decision. That's something they've got to learn to carry on with them. I think that many other things should be returned back to the state. I think that's going to happen through time. I think that the Supreme Court has decided that it's time that not everything gets brought up to a federal level unless it absolutely has to be. The Texas case with the free speech ruling that came from a federal judge, I don't think it's gone up any higher. I may be wrong. I'm sure they filed to get their way. These social media companies are banning people left and right, specifically now that we're closer to the midterms. They're really starting to ban people left and right, trying to suppress the voice. That is illegal. That is unconstitutional. It will uphold in the Supreme Court, and it will spearhead the faction to get rid of the 230 protections for social media. They're already acting like publishers. They're removing publishings from these social media apps, from Facebook, from TikTok, from YouTube, because they don't like the idea. They don't want the ideas to get out that the shots may not be good for you. And I'm just going to say it. I'm tired of trying to hide the thing to satisfy a few people. A few people don't get to control the mass of the population. You realize there's 338 million people in the United States. 535 people we elect to go represent us in D.C. and make decisions for us as a collaborative. The problem is the 10 square miles of Washington, D.C. has been all about them. They turn it to about them. Don't you think, not for a minute, that Ukraine ain't getting this money? They might be getting the money, but Zelensky's washing the hell out of it. And they're getting it back in D.C. into their back pockets. Now, I'm not saying all 535 of them are getting that, because, some people just are left out in the cold. Don't care what your section or quality is in life. But you go look at the money some of these legislatures had. There's some that's been in there. It was piss poor when they got there. Now they're 10, 12, 20, 30, 40 million dollars profit. A lot of that's insider trading. We're fully aware of it. It's been on display, and that's just how it is. But they're a select group of people, and they somehow or some reason put up on a pedestal. My problem is, why have we got so many 80-year-olds up there trying to tell 20-year-olds what to do when they don't even, pardon what I'm about to say, when they sometimes can't remember to go relieve themselves in the bathroom and they just shit right in their damn pants. I'm a healthcare worker. I've been working in healthcare for a long, long time. I can tell you that certain bodily functions can't be controlled if certain things happen to you, and you have to have protective underwear put on. Why? They need to be at home where they can be took care of and watched after, instead of setting up in D.C. thinking they know what's so right for everybody else in the country, that they don't listen to the public. They don't listen to the people. They're scared to death right now. They're in the middle of building a damn wall for something around D.C. You've got all these people coming across the border because this administration refuses to acknowledge the fact that they're doing it on purpose while everybody else sees the bigger picture. I don't know where they think they're going to come out at, but all of these people they're bringing in here are young, viable, fighting-aged kids. And I mean kids. 16, 17, 18-year-old thugs that are coming across the border too. Don't they just take my word for it, go look. All the information's out there. They still have to follow some of the law. All the information's there. And everybody knows it. The problem is now that we don't even know what is happening with these people here and why. We don't know what is the truth and what's not. We don't know how they're going to respond to stuff when it's time to respond to stuff. I don't know where these illegal aliens' loyalties lie. Oh well, the people they're bringing across, the Latin American people, they're generally conservative. Oh yeah, the Latin American people generally are conservative. But just like the United States, there's people that are conservative that don't have anybody's best interest but their own at mind and heart. Same thing with anybody else in any part of the country. It's human nature. So what's going to happen when the shit hits the fan? Where are they going to be? Whose side are they going to be on? Where are they going to stand? They're going to stand with somebody that brought them in here, let them cross the border illegally, not stand in line and pay what the money they have to pay to process through and become naturalized. They're not doing that. That's what people want to see. They want to see legal immigration. We want people here. We don't mind having people here. I've been over this country. We've got plenty of acreage out there to make settlements for. That's not the point. That's not even a problem. It's not a problem they're wanting to discuss, because they would rather bundle up the money, leave the border open, use our tax dollars, give them free EBT, give them free housing, give them free health insurance, and then tell them, you need to vote for us. We did this for you in this another way to stuff a ballot box. The Democrat governors and stuff, no, they can't hold power in any of these other states, and I don't care what any of y'all think at this point right now, with 85% of the people thinking the mainstream media is the most dangerous thing to our democracy. It is. But people have figured it out. You've got a problem. Why is there 2 to 3 million podcasts every week in this country? Nobody's ever heard of, but it's people telling the truth. It's people that do research and want to just talk. So they talk. It doesn't matter the amount. I don't have a very big audience, but I do my stuff. I do my research, and I put it out there for people to listen to, draw their own conclusions to. Do your own research. Don't ever take what anybody says to heart, including the mainstream media. They will lie to you in a minute. They are so into the October surprise stuff, they're just making shit up and lying about it. That's why they have tuned it off. That's why you can go watch anything on the Inspiration Channel, Gunsmoke, or the Rifleman, or anything like that, and I can guarantee you their viewership's still going to be more than CNN. The Clinton News Network has had its better days. Time that they should just, go downstairs to the door and just turn the key and lock it up. That's most of them, including the conservative ones. They're just giving you one side of the story. Nobody wants one side of the story. That's why the Democrats watch just what they want to watch. The true hardcore Republicans just watch Fox News. The more conservative, middle-leaning folks watch ANN and Newsmax. I mean, OAN and Newsmax. And they try to figure out from there, what's going on. People listen to Sean Hannity, and they listen to Joe Rogan, and they listen to Dan Bongino, and they all try to put stuff together and come up to their own conclusions, do their own research. I do. On my other podcast, I read everything the government puts out, and then I do my own research. Then I look at the independent stuff, and I figure out where the healthcare model's going. It's been an interesting study in semantics for that healthcare podcast. There's so many interchangeable words, and everybody knows it. Nobody wants to look up those words. Nobody wants to really deal with healthcare. They've always been used to somebody doing it for them, and we don't even take time to do for ourselves. And when it starts to interfere, like with these mandates, with these shot mandates, just so you can keep your job, then people got all upset. Well, you've let them chip away at your rights for so long that they got to do that. They got to see exactly how far we'd go. And there's some people out there that still think getting this jab is safe. It is not. I said from the get-go, when you put mRNA in your body, that's a messenger RNA. RNA is building blocks for DNA. Messenger RNA tells the DNA what to do. And if you think the government had it in for you before, they got you now. If you took an mRNA shot, I apologize for the government lying to you. You should have listened to the public. The public did more research on it than the damn researchers themselves did. Because they're not going to sit there and tell you, we developed a new drug that has absolutely no benefits whatsoever, but we're going to mandate it to you so we can claim that this flu symptom virus is going to kill you all. And you know what? It did. It killed 10 or 20,000 people outright. But you can't count everybody that wins, because I've worked in the healthcare field when folks started dying in facilities and everybody died of COVID. That is a damn lie. Some people died from just right route heart failure. Some people had heart attacks and died. Some people had MBAs. I saw death certificates with MBA as a secondary reason for death. Head trauma is a secondary reason for death, and the primary death cause was COVID. How did COVID have a wreck? They may have died and been positive with COVID, because you can get a common cold and still be asymptomatic, not have any sniffles, not have a cough, nothing. Same thing with coronavirus, same thing with the flu. You can have strep infection and never have strep throat. But they convinced you that they were the experts. And how many years before this did we tell people, don't trust the doctor, go get you a second opinion? And nobody thought to get a second opinion, not even the damn government, because it was against their mantra. You realize this is the last country to follow any socialist rule. Gigolo boy Trudeau in Canada, hell, he did it with truckers. The people that carried the food to the table of Canada, he took on head on, and then he used the local police to get them under control. He was a socialist that used the police. He essentially set up a dictatorship in Canada. They're trying to do that here. Because if he was so right, if the Prime Minister was so right in Canada, then why didn't he put the Canadian Army in to take over? Because the Army wouldn't listen to it. Everybody knows it. because it's their own they'll be against. Now, I didn't look it up anytime for Canada. I'm not sure if it's all volunteer or not, but I know the United States is all volunteer. We don't have mandated service here. You got mandated selective service. You go fill out at the post office and get on the list for a draft if we ever have one. But they know they can't use the military in the United States because it's all volunteer, number one. Number two, a lot of people still take the Constitution real serious. And when they're told to fire upon their own people, they will not do it because they grew up with them. Because they went to school with some family members. Because everybody in small town knows each other. And guess what? That leaks on up. Leaks on up the chain. It goes right up into the bigger cities too. We cannot continue down the path we're on. It's not sustainable. We can't keep giving trillions of dollars away every year just so we can be Captain Save-A-Ho to the whole world. It's now past all of that. It's time to stay home. It's time to get out of our wars. It's time to come up with a nuclear peace treaty and get everybody to stand down for a damn minute. It's time that the people took over what's rightfully theirs. This government thinks they're a last bastion of hope for everybody else. And what we understand and what everybody else understands is that we are the last of the freedom fighters, per se. We're a unique country. We are the last republic. And I say that with, we're the last Greek, Roman style republic. Was set up that way. It's so free that if you take the original, if you take the Constitution and use the laws as they were originally intended, these civil codes in these cities will not stand up to it. You know, you don't have to have a car tag to travel. You don't have to. Matter of fact, the laws were invented for the people to enforce the law. It was not invented for the people that live here. Civil codes are not laws. They are civil codes. They are codes used by corporations. All of your cities are incorporated or corporated. The reason for this is so they can enact their own civil penalties and all. If you're speeding down a road and there's nobody there on the road but you, cop doesn't even have a right to pull you over if you're not committing commerce. That's the beauty of the Constitution. That's why Ben Franklin said, when he was asked what kind of government we had, he said it's a republic as long as you can keep it. They take the civil codes, kill it into the foundation of each city, and then it slowly destroys the Constitution because people can't separate the law from the civil codes. The absolute action of law. Law is an acronym. Law is not a word, it's an acronym. There's laws for the land, there's laws for the air, there's laws for the water. Air and water, part of law, is commerce. Those are civil codes. The supreme law of the land is the Constitution. The law of the land will trump every civil code in court. That's why the writs of habeas corpus, you have to produce a body. That's why habeas corpus is so important. You can't be carried to jail on one charge and then them switch the charge in the middle of the process. Because they know that they can get you for it, doesn't mean they can get you for it. I had a friend I work with, his wife was with somebody that got pulled over, and it was a misdemeanor traffic violation. I'm going to explain a little more in a minute. And they took her to jail and charged her with a misdemeanor, and had her bail out. Well, before she could get out of the doors on the bail, a non-arresting officer came in there and completely switched the ticket, charged her with a felony, and threw her in jail, and they had to wait to go to court till Monday. Well, it didn't take them but a second to throw it out, and the officer was reprimanded by the court. Now, that was an honest judge. That was a judge that knew the lawsuit was coming. He knew that the rule would be challenged, and he knew his name would be on it, and he didn't want it there. He was a smart judge, because it would have been, especially right before an election, it would have been used to completely destroy an entire town's leadership. And it would have. The girl was moving from one house to another. The officer they were going opposite, they were coming towards each other, and somehow or another he saw that her tag was expired or whatever. He saw that her taillight was out, is what I'm trying to say, and then he made an illegal U-turn to do it. That also should nullify anything. If he can't follow his own civil codes, that's who the laws were intended for, was them. If you get pulled over by a cop and he's got a blinker out, they can't write you a ticket. The laws that are made, the civil codes that are made, are for the people enforcing the laws. Another example, failure to identify, that's what cops love to use. If you're breaking the law for failure to identify. Failure to identify was not intended for the public. That was intended for the officers. And you go back and read. If you go in and an officer refuses to give you their name and badge number, that's a felony. They got all the other parts right, but you don't ask enough questions and you don't research enough. So if the mainstream media tells you something, guess what? That must be true. That's why all of the stuff I just talked about happened. Because you're letting it happen. Because you don't study your rules and laws enough to know the difference. The law of the land, at the end of 5 o'clock when you clock out of your job, the law of the land is the Constitution. It'll be that way when you wake up. Maybe. If you can keep it. Then people are waking up. And why the social media companies are blocking everybody from saying anything is because the government is scared that you're waking up. And they can't have you realizing you're stronger, you're bigger, you're meaner, you're badder, you're more hateful, you're more horrible than they could ever be. Because I think about all the time, everybody talks about we're delving into bad. I mean, a lot of it is the president himself's rhetoric, or Jills, or Hunters, or what the hell ever, and we're watching them display privilege that they said we all had out here. You remember white privilege? That was a big thing. Well, that's true. White privilege is what you're watching in D.C. The definition of white privilege is the 10 square miles of Washington, D.C. That's white privilege. Oh, but there's non-whites in these positions. Right, that use the same privilege, correct? So why don't we call it what it really is? It's called financial privilege. It ain't got nothing to do with color. It's green privilege is what it is. It ain't white. It ain't black. It's green. And as soon as you realize that, the better off you're going to be. As soon as you start teaching your kids that, hey, it's not a level playing field. The people that we put in power over us made it that way 20 years ago, and now we're trying to dig ourselves out of a hole caused by the lack of my parents and taking action in the own political in part of the town that they live in, and not having any political action to speak of. Well, whatever they decide, they know what's best. No, they don't. You know why they don't know what's best? Because they're only working for themselves. I mean, like on a national level, hell, we pay ours, $175,000, $180,000 a year. Well, they just give themselves a big raise. So I don't even know what the number is anymore, but they always giving themselves a raise. They don't suffer. And if you'll tell me how a woman that makes $175,000 a year in the House of Representatives in 5 years turns out to be worth more than $10 million, that something's not coming back in the laws they pass, and they know the laws they're about to pass to benefit what businesses, and then they can go and buy the stocks of that company and make a damn killing. That just happened this week. Don't think it didn't. If you want to go look, go just punch in Nancy Pelosi insider trading. All you got to type in any search engine box, but do it on a more independent search engine box. Do it on, let's go to Brave browser. Add that to your, and type some stuff in. You get a different search result. You get what's called the truth when it pops up. And then go to Rumble, which is a free speech type site, and type in Nancy Pelosi insider trading, and you'll see all of these minor news people talking about the chip company and how they bought stock in this chip company before they knew they were fixing to benefit the same company she was fixing to pass a law on. That's insider trading, folks. Martha Stewart spent time in jail for it, and she is still Speaker of the House. It's green privilege, people. The rules for thee, but not for me. 10 square miles. 10 square miles, folks. That's all you got to remember. The 10 square miles of Washington, D.C. controls everything. And for everybody that listens to this this week, let me tell you right now, it's not ever going to be any different, even after this midterm elections. If we don't hold the feet to the fire, I'm fixing to get real political. I don't normally get real political, but I'm going to say this. Whoever gets a majority, and we probably know it's going to be the Republicans will probably get the majority in the House and Senate. I don't want no Senate majority leader to be Mitch McConnell. His day's come and gone. He needs to go home and get his little bib on and keep the spit from draining down his cheeks. Now, that may be a little hard, but if you ever look at him, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I don't want Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House. He ain't got no balls. He ain't got not a ball left on his body. He's a weakling. He's not got any gumption whatsoever. He always wants to be so politically correct when he speaks. That's bullshit. I want somebody up there that's going to tell it like it is. What I want up there is a plumber. What I want up there is a teacher. What I want up there is a freshly graduated student that's lived in this damn country and not in 10 square miles of privilege. Everybody that lives in D.C. are privileged, but not the inner city part of D.C. They're not privileged. But that's the way it is in the city-state. And yeah, it's true. That whole conspiracy theory about the city-states, the 3 city-states in the world, is true. It's everywhere. And you can see it happening. I can basically tell you that the third or fourth revolution started. Right now, the war is on TikTok. It's everybody, all the conservative post creators, all the people that are conservative lean. Hell, even some old classic blue dog Democrats are on the patriot side or the conservative side of TikTok because they know this is bullshit what they're doing. They sold the country a bill of goods, and then if you believe the 2,000 mules thing, they stole the election. Right? But who stole the election? I've said 100 times before, 2,000 mules isn't definitive either way. It sure looks bad. It didn't show me at all that it's all the Democrats just doing it. What it showed me is if one side knows what you're doing, the other side does it too. You don't tell on me, I don't tell on you. We'll make it look good, we'll fight against each other, and then when the day's over with, we can go to the bar and get a beer and laugh about how stupid everybody else that put us in office is. Because that's what they do. And I know that for a fact. Know that for a fact. I said way early on in this podcast that there will be a day of reckoning for somebody. At that time, I didn't know who it was going to be. But here's what they're scared of happening, and here's what I think's going to happen. But here's what the 10 square miles is scared of. You're going to get your elected official you push for. And then you're going to hold their feet to the fire. And then what's taken them 40 years to accomplish will take you 3 years to get done. Because that's the only way the public's ever going to win. Period. Is first you got to get the people in office. Don't matter if you like them or not. Don't matter if that's the side you vote for or not. Get somebody in office, even you Democrats, if you want to. AOC is a prime example. She's caught hell this week. They have screamed nuclear bomb on New York so much. Those people are terrified. They were doing it to get control of the people. What happened was it backfired, as most plans by a government do. It completely backfired on them. AOC is in real trouble. Not about losing the race. She's in real trouble from her own people. Her own district they were terrible the other night to her. And she's so dumb. They were catcalling and hollering FJB in a Democratic area. Now, if they're classic liberals, there's one thing about a classic liberal that you don't have with these dumbasses that we call in far left extremists now. A classic liberal says that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. The social part is where a classic liberal basically separates themselves from the conservatives. And they believe in higher taxes, and they believe in giving social programs, and that's normally where a classic liberal is different. There's common ground. Second Amendment's usually common ground. Freedom of speech is always common ground. I heard the joke this week. About and the punchline ended up being for this joke that the only way that they'll ever tell you what they're doing is if it's squeezed out of them through their wallet. So if you didn't buy it, you're not going to get it. The classic liberal they're going to be there squeezing with you to try to get the answer. Because remember, their only difference is how the money's spent for social programs. They're starting to see that with the FBI going after even, and this is a point of contention, everybody's hard if it was Trump. It's not the fact that it was Trump. It's the fact that they've weaponized the government against the people. If you can't see it for what it is, he's not the only one they're doing it to. They're going and taking people's phones. They're trying to find stuff on this January 6th. They're trying to make something stick so bad to people. What's happening is everybody's figured out, well, all you're doing is pushing the issue. What are y'all scared of us finding out? Now, that makes people more interested in what it is. That's why you're seeing so many people leave the Democratic Party. That's why you're seeing the people. They messed up. They tried to separate us for years. They've tried to separate us with race. They've tried to separate us with anything that would come along as a social injustice, quote unquote, social justice warriors, separate us that way. And they left us out here to go shopping together. And they left us out here to go to the gas pump together. And they left us out here driving the roads together. Well, eventually, if you're driving around, you got to have gas, so you're going to meet up at the gas pump. And if you got a family or yourself and you get hungry, you got to go to the grocery store on the gas that you just bought. So you start making friends from opposite spectrums. Well, they didn't keep us separated like we needed them to. And now they've been talking, and what are we going to do? Well, let's create a cold virus, put a mask on them, mandate a shot, keep them at home, keep them separated, keep their face covered so they don't have any distinctive personality traits. Because they can talk, but if you can't see somebody smile, you don't know what the delivery is. So what you do is you just end up taking the words as they're said. Well, if they say, okay, well now you need to go in your house. And if they're not smiling or they're not frowning or they don't look firm enough, you just do what they say to avoid trouble. Well, they get their way that way. That's the whole gamut of the mask. It's to gain control of you. If you don't think it is, look what happened in Hitler's country of Germany. Oh, you can't leave comparisons like that. They just repeated the same thing. Get control of the guns, put a mask on them, don't give them any personality, keep them hid from each other. That way they don't get along. But if you see their whole face, you know where they stand. You know if it's a joke or not. You can joke around with people. You can't do that with a mask on. Unless you really, really know the person. Excuse me a second. So they wonder what's happening and why it's going on. Really, oh, it's the gas prices. It's more than just gas prices. It's to think that people are so stupid that they think electricity is not made from fossil fuels. And yet you've got a president that wants you to buy an electric car, but he don't want to harvest the fossil fuels so you can charge your electric car. Because you got to have coal to create electricity. You got to have, there's nuclear power. Yeah, you can create some electricity, but we don't have enough nuclear power plants to create it for everybody. We probably would be energy independent. But then you'd have meltdowns and you'd have radiation poison breaking out in the city. I'm old enough to remember 3 Mile Island. I'm old enough to remember Chernobyl. Those were bad incidents. But you'll have that happening more nuclear plants you got up. So you can't do that everywhere. We got a population to take care of too. So to create electricity, you got to have fossil fuels to do it. And this is a president that said he's trying to get rid of fossil fuel industry. If he wanted, he wouldn't make gas so high and then tell you to go buy an electric car. And then we come to find out, just to make the batteries for these things, about $20,000. So the cost of an electric car basically is the battery and the harness wiring, because wiring is made of copper, and copper is real expensive right now. Oh, there's more to it. Yeah, there's more to it. It means you're paying way more for a car than you should, number one. Number two, it don't have solar panels on it, so it can't charge that way. By design, I'm sure, because I find it funny that Tesla has a car automotive side that has to be charged from electricity, but they have a solar side of energy. But none of their solar stuff's on their cars to charge them. You don't have a power panel that you can plug into your car and generate charging from the sun when you're going to be somewhere and parked all day. You can pop a solar panel on there. If you get a half charge out of a battery, that's enough to get you somewhere, a couple 100 miles maybe. But we don't have that, and I don't know why. I mean, if you're really going to get rid of the fossil fuels, you got to think of stuff like this, man. It's not rocket science. It's really not. None of this is rocket science. It's common sense. And the people that are running around buying everything the liberals and the Republicans say, you don't have any common sense. Here's the common sense. Well, you're pushing them to vote red for Republicans. I know. And it actually ain't dumb. It's not a dumb thing to think like this. This is how common sense works. So let's think about it. As far left as the left has gone, to balance that far left push that the left has, the right has to go further right, just to bring it to the middle. You widen the scope to get to the middle. The people that's left out here now, the people that are quote unquote waking up, and I'm not talking about these woke pronoun people. I'm talking about the people that work and go to school and go to the gas pump and go to the grocery store, that live in the same town, that grew up with each other, that know these people are sick of politics as usual. The government, through this mask mandates, the government through this COVID crisis, quote unquote, forgot one important thing. You can try to keep us at home, as long as we got a tracking device in our hand, and I mean cell phone by that. You can read that we were texting each other, making fun of everything y'all did and said, how stupid y'all were standing at those podiums in D.C. giving those speeches, how we saw that most of the men in D.C. don't have any nuts left. There's one senator that sticks out in my head right now, just got the biggest set of brass balls I've ever seen. And there's a representative from the same state that's got the biggest set of brass balls I've ever seen. Because they both tell it just like it is. But the one that really sticks out in my head is Senator Kennedy. And his commercial was great. He said, next time you get in trouble, if you all in to defund the police, don't call the police, call a crackhead. He summed up the stupidity of the country in a 2-sentence commercial. The punchline was the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. My jaw dropped and I went to laughing. Because he's right. But I laughed because these people are going to latch on to the crackhead part, which they did. That was the left. When he was saying, it is stupid for you people to say defund the police. You want it defunded so you can get away with stuff. So don't call the police when you get in trouble. Call a crackhead, because that's who you sided with. In other words, all these politicians hollering to defund the police are not for nothing but themselves. They're only doing the defund the police so they or their family can get away with something. And that's what it amounts to. And that's where it's going. So it's just been ramblings tonight, just stuff to think about. Catch me on my TikTok. Gray State Mafia, the State of Gray 2.1, and Gray State Mafia 3 and Gray State Mafia 4. Gray State Mafia 3 is, I'm transitioning it to I'm going to do TikTok videos regarding the state of the healthcare industry, the stupidity that goes along with the healthcare industry, the stupidity of the United States government, the stupidity of the state governments. Folks, I will say this right now. All they had to do in 2010 or whenever it was they passed ACA or Obamacare, all they had to do to lower insurance costs and premiums was to make no borders and have insurance companies be able to sell their policies nationwide, and that would have pretty much fixed it all. The EPA competition is paramount in the healthcare field because it pushes the healthcare field to push themselves to find a better way, a cheaper way, a faster way to take care of people, and they took all of that away. They've slowed it down just like they have the government. They've created problems where there shouldn't be any, and they've done that on purpose to get control of you, and they have.
This has been another episode from the Gray State Revolution. Join David again next week for a look into the past to see the future. Remember, when tyranny becomes law, resistance becomes duty. Download episodes from your favorite platform every week and follow Big Dave on TikTok at the Gray State Mafia.